This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
At Lowe's, our members get more. With the MyLowe's Rewards programs, you can shop member-only deals for your home and business every week. Plus, members earn points on eligible purchases. So what are you waiting for? Join for free today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change. Free standard shipping not available in Alaska and Hawaii. Exclusions and more terms apply.
What's up, champs? Welcome to another episode of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Keeping Karlsson. I am your host, Louis Ezekiel. Joining me tonight, my pal and yours, Ryan Downey. Ryan, how are you doing on this fine fantasy hockey playoffs, for some people, Tuesday evening?
Louis, I couldn't be better. It's the best time of the year. I know that some people like drafting more than anything else, and then there are some of those sickos who love the kind of mid-season and, you know, all the tinkering that you do, but this is what we play for. We're here. We're at the end of the road. We got 2 weeks left in Cupful after this week that we're in, and that's not to gloss over what I'm sure is a very important week for most, although it's not an important week for me, Louis, because I got a bye week.
Well done. Congratulations. That's outstanding work. I know that you have your sights set on Cupful Tier 3 here. I am hoping to hang on in Cupful Tier 3 myself so that maybe you and I can go head-to-head in the not-too-distant future. I ended up very near 500 despite the crippling injuries. I ended up 10-11, so did not get a bye in the consolation bracket, but have had a very nice start, between Vasilevsky and Kemper. Can't complain about the goaltending. I know Kemper was not his usual multi-shutouts in a row self that we've gotten used to the last couple of weeks, but he played well enough, and then Vasilevsky had a very nice outing. I traded my injured Kaprizov to get Kadri, and he's got a goal and an assist here, so it made me very sad to do it, but at least it's paying off when it counts for the most.
Yeah, that's an underrated move, Louis. I know we were having a big debate in the Short Shifts secret chat where all the hosts go to plan for the show and discuss our topics for the week. And I know there was a big to-do about whether, people should trade their injured Wild pieces. And, with how things are looking over there with that medical staff, it's looking like you made the right call, Louis. So good on you, Louis, because you've given yourself a chance to compete here. And yeah, like you said, Tier 3 for myself. With the bye, I'm guaranteed to move up. So I'm hoping we'll meet in that grassy plain of Tier 3.
Yeah, it should be really fun. Always excellent to have multiple hosts in the same area. I remember when Ben and I were the only ones doing the show, and we were in the same division. It was very difficult to kind of talk about these sort of things. So, that's why the Allied chat is a great addition. Anyway, the people did not tune in to listen to you and I bandy back and forth about our excellent or not so excellent teams. They want to hear about all the best information that is going to help them win their playoffs. And I think we've got a really good show set up for here. We got a couple headline items to talk about, a couple hot streaks to get into, but mainly what we're going to be talking about is how we've seen some deployment change just in the last few games, and how you can use that to get an edge. We've got a bunch of low ownership players on Yahoo who we think are going to be able to help you be successful here. So can't wait to get into it. I think it's going to be excellent. But we do want to start with one headline, and that is the question that was posed somewhat facetiously, because obviously they have scored some goals here and there. But, will Columbus ever score again with this scoring drought they've had? We got to talk a little bit about how deep are you willing to go in terms of holding on to Blue Jackets on your roster?
Yeah, we got a couple days here to ponder this question because they don't play again until Thursday. And I just want to set this up a little bit by going back to what was said on the Mega Show on Sunday. Brian had mentioned that the team, the Blue Jackets we're talking about here, are going through a season-long low in shooting. In the last 7 games before last night's game against New Jersey, which we'll get into, they had 4 of those 7 games with less than 21 shots. And Brian's very reasonable take was, if we don't see those shot numbers go up, you should probably consider, paring down the Columbus Blue Jackets on your roster. Simple enough, right? So we watched last night's game, and sure enough, the Blue Jackets broke out of the shooting slump. They ripped 46 shots on Jake Allen Monday night. Jake Allen, awesome performance last night, by the way. 45 saves, and I think he's going to help a lot of managers through this playoffs, especially if Markstrom continues to play as he has. More on that later. So the shooting, it seems, won't be as much of a problem going forward. And it is a high team shooting percentage that they have, so this should start to normalize. And I will go on to continue to say here that Brian said that the untouchables are the top of the roster guys, Marchenko, Adam Fantilli, and Zach Werenski, and that he would maybe drop Voronkov. And so that leaves a couple of more guys we want to talk about here. Lewis, we were talking a little bit offline about Chinakhov, Yegor Chinakhov, who's back in the top 6. He's actually on the top line. He is rejoining that Russian line, which was so effective last year, with Voronkov between Marchenko and Chinakhov. Of course, that's going to bump Fantilli down to the second line with Kent Johnson and Boone Jenner, but still, that's probably the most potent top 6 we've seen in Columbus in years. The interesting thing to note here about the Russian line is that last year, the primary scoring threat was Chinakhov, and Voronkov had a lot of success there as well. Marchenko was kind of at the same level as those guys, but obviously this year he has exploded. He's a 70 to 80 point guy now this season, and so he is now going to be that scoring threat. But all 3 of these guys are volume shooters, and I think that probably played into why there were so many shots last night. And that New Jersey game is kind of reflective of their ideal play style. All that being said, Lewis, how far into this top 6 do you go before you start dropping players? And, relevant to you, is Kent Johnson, the Michigan man, a drop?
Well, if we're talking Columbus, we are, our cup runneth over with Michigan men, of course, because we've got Fantilli and Werenski there as well. So I am fine with Kent Johnson, I think, as long as he is still getting top power play deployment. I mean, the whole team has struggled. As you said, in the 7 games since March 4th, Columbus has been shut out 3 times. They scored more than 3 goals just once in that 7-goal outburst. That was the game where Fantilli had a hat trick. I think I would hold on to the top power play players and Jenner. Jenner has 0 goals on 24 shots in his limited action this season. He has 9 assists in 11 games. His peripherals are solid. If you're in a categories league, you are enjoying what Boone Jenner is giving you outside of the score sheet. So I think Jenner gets to hang around. Just over this streak here, it's been a lot of cold shooting. Marchenko has 1 goal on 15 shots in those 7 games. Voronkov, nothing to show for 11 shots. Chinakhov has played 1 fewer game, but he has 0 points on 12 shots, including 6 shots in the last game. I still have faith in these guys. I don't think it's going to stay cold forever. Think about the schedule and who you can fit into your, into your lineup, obviously. But I don't think that this is a permanent cold streak. I think it is maybe being, put under the microscope a little more closely because of when the cold streak is happening, when it is so critical, for fantasy managers. So I could definitely see why we're starting to get concerned about it. But I want my top power play players. I want Boone Jenner because of his peripherals. I think that is still going to be 6 players worth hanging on to in Columbus.
Yeah, and you know why we're having this conversation now? It's because it's the playoffs, right? We have quarterfinals happening this week, semifinals next week, and it's not like Columbus's schedule is all that exciting. There's some off nights for them this week and next, but if you can hold them through these 2 weeks, and if you've got the kind of team that can withstand some, less than ideal performances from your Blue Jackets, you'll be rewarded with a 4-game week in the finals. And hopefully these guys can help you take home a championship or a consolation win, in your league, if you're in the cupful. hopefully they can help you just as they have all year.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and move on to looking at some of our low-owned Yahoo players who have seen some deployment changes or other circumstantial shifts that are making them more appealing than maybe they were before. And again, we're going to use our Yahoo ownership percentages, and we got to always take that with a grain of salt because this time of year, maybe 30, even 40% of leagues might be defunct here. So we don't want to read too much into these numbers. I would say, you could probably double them, and that's probably the number of active leagues that actually are holding on to these guys. But still, a lot of these players are pretty widely available and could be really nice options for you. If you are not like me and you don't have faith in Columbus, these are some good options for you potentially to make a swap, especially if that opportunity is going to be there for you to improve your games played, improve your schedule. So why don't you go ahead and take it away? Let's start in Boston. One of the really kind of exciting players of the season for an otherwise kind of blah Bruins offense.
Yeah, the mass exodus of talent at the trade deadline has really opened some opportunities in Boston, and one player has been seizing that opportunity more than anyone else, and he's been pretty decent all year. Morgan Geekie has been a hold at various points this year, and now is the unquestioned top left winger on this team, playing with Pasternak and playing on that power play with Pasternak and all the other, more offensively skilled players on the Boston Bruins. He has really found a nice place for your playoff roster here. He's shooting more this season than ever before. That's the interesting thing to note with Morgan Geekie. He's shooting 2 shots per game. In past seasons, he's had 1.7 shots per game. And in his first full-time season with Seattle, as a full-time player, he was shooting 1.3 shots per game. So he's really had an uptick in that realm. His shooting percentage is higher than ever as well. Which certainly, he's taking advantage of the opportunities that he's getting. So he's shooting more and he's converting more on those opportunities, which is why he has 23 goals this season so far. The better deployment does look good on him. And although he probably will never be more than a 50-point per game guy, that doesn't matter with 3 weeks to go. Like we've got, as I've said, 2.5 weeks until the end of the season in Cupful. Maybe your home league will go on an extra week or two. But he's top line, top power play, and stapled to Pasta right now. So he could be a nice ad for the rest of this week. Beware his semifinals schedule next week is not very good. That's the only thing I will say. So, if you're listening to this Wednesday morning, he might be a nice ad for the rest of this week to get you through to the semifinals. And we're going to talk next, Lewis, about a guy who, he's been around for a long time. He's been in the news recently as a trade target. He ended up staying with St. Louis, and he's the captain, Brayden Schenn. Tell us about his recent what's been going on recently for Schenn in St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about Schenn. I did just want to add one more thing about Morgan Geekie, and this has been really exciting, I'm sure, for his managers, is the uptick in time on ice. If you look at his quarterly regular season, in the first quarter of the season, averaging 14:03 a night on the ice. Quarter 2, 16:41. Quarters 3 and 4, he is inching closer to 19 minutes, 18:31 and 18:54. So they are definitely showing a little bit more confidence in him. And it's been, really exciting, I think, to see Geekie kind of flourish with this new opportunity. But yeah, I want to talk about Brayden Schenn here. This is maybe not a major change in terms of circumstances, but he has been on a nice little run, and he is a guy who's kind of hung around on the bottom of rosters or at the top of the waiver wire for much of the season. But he has had a really nice last few games. Still, that game may still be going on tonight. I'm not sure how it's going. I didn't see if he got in on anything, but in the 5 games previous to Tuesday night, 4 goals and 1 assist, 10 shots. Now that's an unsustainable shooting percentage, but it looks a little more reasonable if you go back 13 games where he is on a 13-point streak with an additional 1 goal and 7 assists. So that makes the previous, this 4 goals on 10 shots recently, that shooting percentage look a little more standard. St. Louis is very easy strength of schedule moving forward. Keep an eye out for Joel Hofer as a potential spot start. They are going to face Nashville 3 times over the next 2 weeks. So, of course, that has been a team that, they've been able to make some hay against. So that could be a good opportunity. I like Braden Schenn on, kind of a line 1A with Neighbors and Kyrou, and on that top power play as well. So a nice option if he's floating around out there for you in your league. And of course, he hits quite a bit. So he's a guy who can help you out in, leagues that give points for hits, or if you're in a multi-cat as well.
Yeah, it's been the Jake Neighbors show tonight, so Schenn hasn't really gotten into anything. But just on your note about Hofer there, he's had a really strong game tonight against a very anemic offensive squad for Nashville, currently up 3-1. They did just break his shutout, which is disappointing for those Hofer managers who picked him up today, hoping that they would get that shutout. But like you said, easy strength of schedule for St. Louis next couple weeks. They also get Montreal, I think. Who, is really giving Ottawa a run for their money here tonight, but, definitely an easier opponent than, say, a Vegas or something like that. Let's talk about another player who's kind of functioning as the 1C right now, and that's Ryan Hartman in Minnesota, who is 5% owned in Yahoo. That percentage probably took a tumble over the past month or so, as he has just gotten back from serving a suspension, a well-earned suspension, I should say. Hartman is largely a player in decline who, is falling out of favor on his own team because of his lack of discipline. But, any port in a storm with Joel Eriksson-Ek and Kirill Kaprizov likely out for the rest of the regular season, they've had to turn to him a little bit more than I'm sure they would like to right now. So he has been tasked with keeping this ship afloat offensively, and he's doing his part with 5 points in his last 7 games since returning from suspension. And 4 of those points are power play points, Lewis. He's on that top power play with Zuccarello, Boldy, and Rossi. So you could certainly be doing worse than Ryan Hartman right now. He is a veteran leader who's trying to step up in the clutch, make amends with his teammates, trying to erase this well-earned reputation with some strong play recently. And most importantly for our purposes right now, he has a very strong semifinal and final schedule. We've been talking about Minnesota's playoff schedule for months, it seems like. So Hartman, you could do a lot worse than having him on your squad right now. And even some people in Team Tuven Allied chat this morning were talking up Hartman and picking him up. So if you're in the cacuffle right now, he's going. So you might want to get him soon.
Yeah, and you mentioned all the forwards out there on that power play, but also out there with Hartman, Zuccarello, Boldy, and Rossi has been Jared Spurgeon, 25% owned on Yahoo. He's got a goal and 6 assists to go with 7 shots and 12 blocks over the last 7 games. Not super excellent shooting numbers there. Certainly, you'd like him to be shooting a bit more than just once a game, but he is holding down that top power play quarterback spot on an admittedly limited power play unit. But Spurgeon is a really nice option out there, especially if you are in a league that is pretty shallow in defense. Not someone who, is viewed as particularly exciting, at least not lately. In the past, I think when he was shooting a bit more, we had high hopes for him. But, he's being put in a position right now where he can be successful. Boldy, Rossi, Zuccarello, nothing to sneeze at there. So a nice little opportunity for him. And if you could just indulge me in a little bit of sadness here, I was really hoping that Spurgeon would not be the guy that I was excitedly heading into these playoff weeks with. In 2 of my top 4 picks were Kaprizov and Eriksson-Ek because I was, just going to, be whooping people left and right when we got into the playoffs here. Unfortunately, they have not survived to the playoffs, but the best laid plans, or maybe as if I can, with apologies to Mike Tyson, everybody's got a plan until a puck hits their player awkwardly. So would love to have those guys going, but I'm going to toss you back to my home team here. Tell me a little bit about Marco Kasper and why we might again be jumping on the ghost train.
Lewis, it wouldn't be a short shifts podcast with me and you here if we didn't talk about Marco Kasper at least once, right? It's really interesting with Kasper. I don't think a lot of us prospect heads expected Marco Kasper to get such prime deployment so soon in his career. It really has changed his outlook. I want to just say really quickly on the Fantasy Hockey Life podcast, sometimes we talk about prospect development as a funnel, right? And so the range of outcomes is much higher when they're earlier in their career, when they're younger, when they have more development time ahead of them. And, as they progress in their career, the funnel gets, smaller, as funnels are wont to do. And so Marco Kasper, at the fat end of his funnel right now, is the second line center on the Detroit Red Wings, which is just kind of a crazy statement. They've drafted all these kind of defensively responsible 200-foot centers. I'm thinking of, Carter Mazur, who came before Kasper, I should say. And then you also have Michael Brandzeg-Newgard, who's coming up. There's a lot of different options for that 3C role. So some of these guys are going to have to play different roles. And it looks like they've got Marco Kasper sorted here as the 2C. As the season has progressed, we looked quarterly at some players earlier. He's gone from a 12 to 14 minute a night guy to a 17 to 20 minute a night guy. And the Red Wings' success has gone with him. He's been playing between DeBrincat and Kane since March 10th, so just over a week, and 3 goals and 1 assist in that time, with one of those games being a 3-point game. So a couple of games there with no scoring, but in those games, he's been very consistent as a shooter, averaging 3 shots a game since then. I want to also just point out that, the coach was talking about Kasper earlier, McClellan, and he said that he just wants to keep beating the drum of this young man because he has deserved it. And so that is high praise from your coach. He thinks that he is perfectly placed with DeBrincat and Kane, who can be very creative with the puck. As long as Marco Kasper goes to the net and plays that hard-working style game, he will be rewarded on this team. And it looks like McClellan's a huge fan. So that's why you should pick him up, because I don't think he'll move back into the bottom 6, at least for the next 2.5 weeks, which is all we care about. He's got a great semifinal schedule next week. Not bad for the finals. I would say don't get Marco Kasper this week in a 2-game week, but you could do a lot worse than him next week for sure.
Yeah, definitely. If you're, in a position where you can start making moves for next week, come maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that might be a guy you start to look at. And I think when we brought him up earlier, we talked about him as sort of being like the next, the new Jake Neighbors, who had that big glow up after the coaching change because he had the coach's confidence. I think we're seeing that here with Kasper as well. The biggest thing that I was concerned about during that, red hot streak that he was on was that he still wasn't getting a ton of time on ice. 17, 18 minutes is a far cry from the 13, 14 that he was seeing during that previous streak. So it feels like it could potentially be a little bit more sustainable.
Marco Kasper looks like he could be sustainable, and in order for us to be sustainable, Lewis, we're going to need to take a break here, so we'll be right back with more Short Shifts.
This NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going. But that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out and games left for you to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN, stands for the Hockey Podcast Network, for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Listeners, are you looking for a shortcut to better auto insurance for you? Something that takes all the research off your plate, something that's easy, something that matches you at lower rates, something genius. That's where NerdWallet comes in. These nerds have already done the work for you. Just answer a few questions and ta-da, you'll be matched with top insurance providers in your area. Find the right rate for you today at nerdwallet.com. After all, using NerdWallet is more than just smart, it's genius. Not all applicants will qualify for the lowest monthly payments. NerdWallet Insurance Services, Inc. CA resident license number OK92033.
O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Welcome back to Short Shifts. And hey, while we're welcoming people back, we should welcome Yanni Gourde back to Tampa Bay, Lewis, who, recently acquired, along with Oliver Bjorkstrand, for a litany of draft picks that Julian Brisebois doesn't care about. And it looks like Gourde is going to have a key role in helping Tampa Bay, have a third run to the Stanley Cup here. He has 4 assists in 6 games as a Bolt, which is not all that exciting. But what is exciting is his lineup placement. He is playing on line 1 with Kucherov. He's playing on the second power play. They get some time there too. He's averaged nearly 2 shots on goal per game. Nothing to show for it yet from a goal scoring standpoint. But hey, come on. Nikita Kucherov, he's one of the best passers in the league, and he can dish it. So it seems like Gourde will start cashing in at even strength before long if he keeps it up. And he also hits plenty, which is something that you've come to expect with Yanni Gourde. Wins some faceoffs too, so he's pretty good in a multi-cat league. What are you thinking about Gourde?
So I really like Gourde in this spot. I know that he's not on the top power play, which is a hit against him, and he hasn't produced a ton. I mean, 4 assists in 6 games is not nothing, but depending on your scoring categories, that might not do a ton for you. But it just seems like he is in a position where he is going to start scoring sooner or later, like you said. I love that multi-cat potential. Sometimes we get too navel-gazy and are always talking about the cupful. But in those multi-cat leagues, I mean, Gourde with his deployment, with his hits, with the faceoffs that he's getting, just a really outstanding potential. Obviously schedule plays a factor here, but, being out there for, 10, 11 minutes a night with Gensel and Kucherov, I should say, on that top line is a really nice spot for him. So I love Yanni Gourde being back in Tampa, and he's definitely a guy that I've got my eye on for a potential ad down the line. Haven't done it yet. Haven't used any of my moves yet for this semifinal, but I am going to, or quarterfinal, but I am going to keep an eye on him for sure.
And someone else we're going to be keeping an eye on here, Lewis, is Max Domi. And, it's an interesting player to bring up because Elon had this to say about him on Matchup Maximizer this weekend. I have a policy at this point to not recommend Max Domi. I'm going to guess his recent production is a trap and that you probably don't want Max Domi. And normally, Elon, I would agree with you 100%. As a major Leafs fan, as everyone knows, Max Domi has, let's say he's been underwhelming this year. He's had several 20-game pointless streaks. Really tough look for him. But hey, right now is all that matters. 4 points in his last 4 games. Some goals in those points. He often has these streaks where he'll go, 4 or 5 games and he'll have 3 or 4 points and then he'll follow it up with zeros for the next kind of 3 or 4 games. So is now different? I think it might be. It's possible. Either way, it's important right now for Toronto to establish their playoff style of play. Matthews called the team out in the media last week that the team is not playing this playoff style that Berube is looking to get them to execute on. And the playoffs and the lead up to it is why you have a competitive guy like Domi. And they're relying on him to be the third line center with Nick Robertson and Bobby McMahon on a sheltered scoring line. They recently acquired Scott Lawton, but he has had a bit of a rough start as a Maple Leaf, and he has been demoted to the fourth line, taking David Kampf's spot. This is why you pay a guy like Domi $4 million a year. It's time for him to step up and earn the money that he has, gotten by being that kind of playoff style player.
Yeah, I think all the Leafs fans really loved the absolutely dominant show that the power play put on. I know that Domi doesn't factor in there, but just it seemed like every time Calgary took a penalty on Monday, they were cashing in, the Leafs were. So, I think that, if you have kind of the team coming in waves like they are, that line with Robertson and McMahon is a nice little youth line, to come out and make some energy. I'm maybe a little more skeptical than you. I might be a bit more on the Elon side. There's been an awful lot of Leaf scoring to go around recently, so that does help Domi's numbers fill out. And, if they keep scoring that way, I feel like the points can keep coming. I don't know if they'll score quite that much. Maybe it's a little bit of an inverse of the Columbus situation for me, where I feel like Toronto might be scoring even a little more than expected right now. And so maybe that's inflating Domi a bit. So I'm going to be the cold water guy here. I've got my eye on him. Certainly an interesting spot. Like you said, shooting more would be really nice. He does have that good semi-schedule. So keeping an eye on him, but not rushing out to necessarily grab him here. For me, I want that top line Gourde over Domi as a third line center if I'm picking my options there. Plus, he's going to give you that floor for hits.
Yeah, I think if you look at all the guys we talked about, he's probably bottom of the list. I probably prefer Kasper. I think I prefer Hartman. It's close with Braden Schenn because he could move up and down the lineup, but I think I prefer him too, and Geekie. So like you said, it'd be nice if Domi could shoot more, and that's how you know he's on his game, is if he's shooting, because he doesn't have a whole lot of confidence in that shot. But hey, if this third line continues to work out, you could, 6% owned in Yahoo, you could probably pick up Max Domi. Someone who is more like a higher percentage owned than Domi. It's an interesting name. Some people are not going to know this name, Lewis. We're going to talk about Dylan Samberg, who is entrenched in Winnipeg's top four now. He's 11% owned on Yahoo, and he's really been coming along this year. This is an era in the NHL. We're going to look back on this where you're going to notice all the defensemen on Stanley Cup winning teams are long and tall, and they have great reach and good sticks. And that's Dylan Samberg. Elliot Friedman has referred to this particular archetype of player as mobile beef. And while that is a little bit off-putting, I think it does kind of represent what you're looking for. If you look at like Vegas, they have all these gigantic guys who can skate and have great reach. And so that's what Dylan Samberg is. Winnipeg has invested a lot in his development, bringing him on slowly, so slowly, in fact, that he is now 26. He did a couple years in college and then a couple years with the Manitoba Moose before jumping up with Winnipeg. He's got 1 year of RFA eligibility yet, and he's cracked into their top four and is crushing it. Lewis, why is it that he has had to be part of this top four right now?
So Neil Pionk has been one of the rare kind of power play 2 defensemen who really has been worth owning for significant stretches throughout the course of the season. And with him out, you've got Samberg stepping up to fill in that role, as you said, being a top 4 defenseman. He's averaging over 20 minutes a night. I guess he has been averaging there, but like the deployment is better. He's getting better opportunities. The shooting has really increased. Previous to Tuesday night, he had 3 shots versus Carolina on the 9th, 2 against the Rangers, 3 against Dallas, 5 against Seattle in his 1 goal, 1 assist game. So just really coming along in terms of providing you some points from shooting, even if he's not necessarily going to keep scoring the way that he has with a goal in each of the last 2 games. The hits and blocks are very much there, the blocks especially. he is a safe floor defenseman who is guaranteed to grind you out some points over the course of the game. And lately he has been showing a little bit more scoring touch. If that is the kind of player who fits into your roster, especially like maybe you're full on forwards, but you've got some defensive slots open, I really like a guy who is going to reliably get you a few fantasy points and has the potential to, go off and get a goal or get a couple assists. I think that is really, really appealing for what he could potentially be providing. Looking over the last 5 games, 4.5, 3 1/4, 2.75, not great, but then 8 and 11.25. Like those are totals that are really, really nice to get from the blue line, especially for players that you are picking up essentially for free. We know the Jets can score. He can get involved there. It could be some really nice opportunities for Samberg, a player that is very much on my watch list. And I might take over Domi just because of the more assured scoring that he would get there. Plus, lets me do some more things with my offense as well.
Yeah, like you said, he's averaging a hit per game, 2 blocks per game, a shot and a half per game, and a 30-point pace, which is a nice asset, especially in Cats leagues or leagues like a couple where you get points for bash. And it's not the best schedule at 3 games a week before the end of the season, but hey, a few off days in there. He's that coveted bash guy. Reminds me a lot of a Gourde earlier this season. I'm definitely going to add him where I can.
All right. Well, let's jump into a couple hot streaks to bring the show to a close here. I'm going to start with a forward, and then I know you've got a couple goalies that you want to talk about. So I want to bring up Nick Schmaltz. I know that this is a guy that Elon has talked about quite a bit because he was able to pick him up, I think, for free. But just a player who has had some lulls, but overall has been quite effective and doing a little bit more scoring. I sort of, maybe I don't give him enough credit, but I sort of had him in my mind as like 2023 Robert Thomas kind of guy who mostly was dishing, not necessarily doing a ton of shooting. Makes sense when you have Clayton Keller on your line. But he's looked really good. 5 goals, 4 assists, 25 shots over the last 8 games. He does have a pretty boring Tuesday, Saturday schedule this week and hasn't produced anything so far through a quarter and change in their game against Edmonton. But next week, this is a guy who really could be effective for you. They play Monday, and there's a little bit of a break, but then Thursday, Friday, Sunday, a really good schedule for Utah. So if you can, maybe a guy that you're just keeping an eye on and getting ready to grab to play for Monday. Maybe if you have room for a forward, Tuesday and Saturday this week. Well, it is Tuesday, but Saturday this week is not, necessarily the busiest Saturday that we've seen. So it could be a really good option. If, you are in a shallow league, maybe wait around and see where he is next week. But he's been playing line 1, power play 1. He's been playing very well. I wouldn't miss out on him if you have the opportunity. I think there's a decent shot that he could represent an upgrade over a spot on your roster if he is floating around out there for you.
Yeah, I'm loading up on Utah wherever I can. They're in a dogfight right now to try and make that final wild card spot, and I think we're going to see a lot of good stat lines from Utah players next week. So good call, Lewis. And now it's goalie time. We're going to talk goalies here, for what it's worth, because goalies are voodoo, as we all know.
That's right.
I will
It's a dangerous game.
It's a dangerous game, Lewis, but we're going to do it. We're going to talk about them, and we're going to talk about what's, someone we mentioned earlier who's been kind of a sure thing this past week, and that's Jake Allen. And of course, we're going to have to talk about Jacob Markstrom as part of this conversation because they are the duo in New Jersey, and one is on their way up and one is on their way down. Allen, upon returning from the Four Nations break, Allen had a few pedestrian games, and then he took an even longer break while Markstrom took the net through the end of February and into March. But since March 9th, so last week, he's been alternating starts with Markstrom, and he put up 3 quality start wins in a row, never letting in more than 2 goals as New Jersey pushes to secure their playoff spot without Jack Hughes and without Dougie Hamilton. Jake Allen has been a real sight for sore eyes in these times. In that same time, Markstrom has led in 6, 2, and 6 goals respectively, losing the support of the fans on X, the Everything website, fleeting though they may be. He only won one of those games, and even though he won that game, it was with a negative goal saved above expected, so he's having some trouble right now. Look, it's certainly possible that Jake Allen could get a bit of a send-off here in his last year with the New Jersey Devils. Take more games from Markstrom so he can rest prior to the playoffs. We all know that Markstrom will probably be the game one starter. And Allen is not returning next year. I think it's been pretty well publicized that it's going to be Nico Dawes' time to come up and take that backup role. But hey, with how he's been saving them lately, maybe New Jersey would be wise to keep the veteran around while their cup window remains open.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And like you said, it is a little bit of a zero-sum game here. Sometimes you have that relationship with the backup goalie where, they spell you for a few so that you don't wear out and you play better as a result. I think it is a much more dangerous situation when you start cannibalizing the starts from that top goalie. Speaking of top goalies, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I'm going to talk about it because I know that that you don't necessarily want to touch this hot stove.
No, I don't.
All right,
not at all.
Tristan Jarry has had 5 quality starts in a row. We made fun of him because he went down to the AHL where he was also terrible, and he got brought up not because he had proved himself in the A, but because he needed to come up. But gosh darn it, he went ahead and won 4 straight games against Minnesota, Vegas, St. Louis, and New Jersey. So, not exactly a lineup of total scrubs here. Even against the Islanders here on Tuesday, yes, they lost 2-4, but he only allowed 3 of those goals on a total of 37 shots. So still put up nice fantasy point numbers there. We did the whole Kyoto thing on our last episode talking about Andy Kyoto, the goaltending coach. Like, maybe he actually stepped up and said, like, look, we have some ideas for how we can actually change things. With Pittsburgh surging, I mean, they have a pathway to the playoffs. It is a very narrow pathway. But, I think they're going to be riding Tristan Jarry here. I know Shams was talking about how he is projected to be the top goalie for the next 10 days. It's just goalie voodoo nonsense. It seems wild that he would play so poorly and then play badly when he was sent to the AHL for conditioning. But something has lit a fire under this guy, and that fire could disappear as quickly as it has appeared. So we're not telling you that he is a lock to start the next, 5, 6, 7 games in a row and win them all. But he is playing well right now. You still want to balance that against that previous performance. It's not like that terrible stretch that he had doesn't exist, but as of right now, he seems like he could potentially be a nice option for you. Mercifully, someone else has grabbed him in my league, so I don't even have to think about it. Jarry and I have a seasons-long relationship that I don't really want to get into, but there's a lot of baggage there, so I'm glad I'm not stuck thinking about him.
Lewis, they call the National Hockey League, the NHL, the Never Hungry League. And it turns out that 2 months of soggy subs and long bus rides can certainly have a profound impact on a man. And Tristan Jarry's standing on business. Like you said, I mean, including tonight's game against the New York Islanders, 4 quality starts in 5 games since he's been back. The one game against New Jersey that he didn't get a quality start was basically on a technicality. He had a minus .33 goal saved above average. So still a pretty good game. He kept them in it. He still won that game. I find it very interesting, Lewis, when you look at his performance since the new year. He's only had 2 really bad starts, and those were on identical 3 goals against with 17 shots games from Seattle and Tampa Bay. And this was during the streak when he was letting in the first goal of every game, just like every Penguins goalie was at that time. If you look on the whole season, he's only had 5 really bad starts. It's possible, I think, that the media around Jarry has really inflated this sense that he is bad. Pittsburgh is not doing him any favors either. But hey, look, going to the end of the season, we only care about the next 2.5 weeks. Sidney Crosby plays on the Pittsburgh Penguins, Lewis, still. So he's still going to, he's going to drag this team as far as they can go. With Pittsburgh surging and they're still being mathematically possible for the playoffs, they're going to ride them until the wheels fall off. Goalies, who knows, right? But, I'll eat some crow right now. I did ask this morning in the secret chat, you saw this, if I was going to eat the biggest amount of crow in Short Shift's history by recommending Jarry. And you bet I am. Go get Tristan Jarry.
All right, and I just want to throw one more on here. I know this is an unscheduled edition, and I know we are well into a long shift at this point, but we just gotta stare in awe at what Thomas Harley has been able to do since Miro Heiskanen's injury. It's been 17 games since Heiskanen got hurt. Harley has 18 points and still time to go. 6 goals, 12 assists. He's playing 25 minutes a night. Just if you went out and grabbed Harley right when you saw that Heiskanen injury, you are loving life right now. You are living right. So nice job there as well. And with that, Ryan, I think we have hit the end of this long shift. The coach is yelling at us to get back to the bench, so we should probably head that way. Thank you so much for joining me. This was a ton of fun. Always love chatting about the latest news with you. If you enjoyed the show, listener, thank you very much. And please consider joining the Keeping Karlsson Patreon group, keepingkarlsson.com/patron. Super supporters receive ad-free episodes. You can interact with Brian, Elon, the Short Shifts crew, and hundreds of other talented fantasy managers on the active Discord server. Once fantasy is done, it reverts to that $1 a month pledge rate, and you can still do everything that you were able to do at the $5 a month rate. So you can bask in all of the fantasy hockey knowledge that's available, learn through osmosis, and be ready to go next October. In addition, please check out GameDayTweets.com for all the best info from Twitter, including team by team and searchable tweets by player name. Visit that site and the other great sites we use to research our episodes at Yahoo, Frozen Tools, and Natural Stat Trick. Our intro and outro music was created by Pat Roach. And until we see you next time, play smart and keep your shifts short.
With leading networking and connectivity, advanced cybersecurity, and expert partnership, Comcast Business helps turn today's enterprises into engines of modern business. Powering the engine of modern business. Powering possibilities. Restrictions apply.
You are never too busy for wholesome meals with HelloFresh. With 50 weekly recipes, customizable to your preferences, you can skip the grocery store and still make easy, affordable meals delivered to your door. For even faster options, try 15-minute meals, prep and bake options, or ready-made meals. Get a free high-protein item for life and up to 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/HelloFresh10free. 1 per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan.
Now's the time for a great deal on a new Honda. It's time to take an adventure with rugged capability and commanding style. Check out the Honda Ridgeline, Pilot, or CR-V. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get a 3.99% APR on a 2025 Pilot, 1.99% APR on a 2025 Ridgeline, or a 2.99% APR on a 2025 CR-V.
See dealer for financing details.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.